Welcome to What's Trending. This is your weekly scroll in podcast form, and we're going to be covering all of the topics that you have been talking about online. With me today, returning, is Matthew Russell Jones. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be invited back to something.
Well,
So
you were brilliant last time, so let's see
thank
if you
you.
can keep it going
Let's
this
see if we
time.
keep it up.
Let's jump into the first topic.
Yes.
Right, first topic this week is Apple has been in the headlines. Gotta be honest, I'm not happy with them either. So basically, they are bringing in age verification on the device. So you're going to have to prove that you're over 18, or else your device is going to be sort of disabled to basically what they feel is appropriate for a 15-year-old. And there's a lot of things in that, it's not just about porn. There are a lot of websites that are deemed to be adult, gambling, that kind of thing. So I am not a fan of this. I don't like the idea that I have paid hundreds of pounds to buy a device, and years down the line, they're saying, by the way, we're going to lock off a load of features unless you give us your important documents. I don't think that seems fair or reasonable. It's causing a lot of trouble for people, especially elderly people. So apparently Apple is only going to take a credit card or a driver's license as proof of ID, or if your Apple account has been operating for 18 years, because obviously that means you're over 18. So a lot of people are saying, well, hold on, I live in London, I don't have a credit card, and I don't drive. So what are you saying, that I need to go and get a form of ID to be able to access my phone? That seems crazy. I don't know how this would work for people that, maybe don't have documents and things like that. So it throws up a lot of ethical concerns. A lot of companies, this hasn't come through to MacBooks yet, but a lot of companies provide Mac products Apple products to their staff. And now are they, if an employee says, well, hold on, I don't want to give Apple my personal details, it's not a damn business who I am, are they then going to be locked out? Like, it just seems like there's a lot of problems here. Apple's saying, well, the British government made us do it. Doesn't actually seem that that's the case. Android haven't done it. A lot of people that looked into this said no, that they didn't. Ofcom has kind of said they've gone further than we even wanted them to go. Where do you stand on this?
Reading it, the first people I had sympathy were the elderly, because I've just felt that the elderly have, I suppose, been forced into this technical world, and a lot of them probably don't want to live in that world, but they have to. So I felt that. I do think it seems a real lack of care, especially because they scrapped the government ID right in the country that we were all supposedly going to have. I mean, I think the younger generation, for me, it's a good thing that people won't be online so much on their phones. But it just seems like the fact it wasn't really trialed and tested, it sounds like, for such a big company, for there to be so many errors. And I've not thought, what if people don't have a driving license, and what if people don't have these forms of ID? It does seem like it's just not been trialed enough and thought through, really. I haven't downloaded the new software, so I didn't know about it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have disabled automatic updates, myself included, and are really thinking about the future. Because for me, this is not just about one company or one policy. This is more of a trend now, where it's you need to prove who you are to access anything. And it's this digital age. And I don't like it. And I think that we should all be fighting against it, because no matter your politics, you've got to think, if a far left or a far right government gets into power and they can start dictating to you what you can and can't do and turn off your privileges, just like Apple is now basically turning around and saying, we're going to take away all these features from you unless you give us this ID. Like, that is what is going to continue to happen. Oh, you've used too much carbon, or you attended a protest for this, we're going to disable your ability to do X and Y. It's like, we don't need this. And I think that we have to take a big stand against it. And to be honest, we've got to kind of see how this plays out, right? They've just announced it. It's just started coming in. They're already running into issues. I think there's a big backlash. Let's see what happens over the next 6 months to Apple. But from my perspective, I am already slowly disentangling myself from Apple after this. And just for context, I am deep in Apple. So I have an iMac, I have 2 MacBooks, I have an iPad, an iPhone, obviously, and AirPods. So I have all the stuff. So it's very hard for me to disentangle myself. But But I've started. I needed to replace my AirPods, and I actually brought just some normal headphones off Amazon that are nothing to do with Apple. So they've lost 150 quid there. I actually need to replace my iPad, and I'm actually looking at getting just an Amazon Fire tablet. And then I will, and the next thing is my phone that needs upgrading. Well, maybe it's time to look at a Samsung or a Google phone or whatever. So I do think that they brought this in. I think that, I know that I am already looking to move away from Apple products after this. I think others will too. And I think if there is that consumer hit of like, oh, people really didn't want to have this, I think that maybe they will listen and change course. And maybe it's just a lesson that they're going to have to learn, because it's not just about what I said about almost the dystopian stuff. Like there are real things about data breaches now. I mean, we just saw Kash Patel, who is the head of the FBI in the US, have his phone hacked and have pictures and messages released. We've seen that with other people. Your phones are very private devices. It's not just about your porn history. It's about, am I Googling, is this a symptom of cancer? Oh, my child is struggling with this. What can I do? Here's some snaps of my kids like in the bath or whatever it is. It's like, I don't want things to be leaked and linked to my my identity. I just think that is wrong.
Yeah, I think it's a big topic of censorship, and it's a really good point that you've brought up about we look at all these states that are completely dictated, where you can't do anything and the government controls everything. And I see what you mean. It's scary in the respect that Apple, if they start working with the government in order to know everyone's history and things, I think it is a really good point, that. And I do agree. I think that freedom of speech and freedom of everything, we shouldn't be censored that way. On the other hand, I would say there's so much push for your minors to be censored to things and not be able to access things. We're really also in this world where they're just trying to figure out how do we, avoid minors from constantly being online and seeing things they shouldn't without the whole world getting affected as well. I feel like we're all getting pulled into that.
Look, I can say this as dad of 3. It comes down to parenting. You control if you give your child a device or not. You control what they're damn well doing on it. It shouldn't really affect the rest of society that the government or big tech needs to step in to do your parenting for you. Parent your own damn kids. So that's my firm line on that. How do you feel about it from an LGBT perspective? Because we've had instances of this before, or almost, things like almost happening before, where it's like, well, if there's a data breach and you've given Apple your passport that's linked to your ID, and then you have searched for gay porn, or you are talking to AI or whatever about coming out and blah blah blah, there is a chance of a mass outing of people, and not obviously not terrible in this country, but potentially cataclysmic in other countries where it's illegal.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously for myself and yourself being like out as who we are, that it doesn't concern me, but I am very aware there's so many people that are having to live, another life and live discreetly. And I agree with that. I mean, there was a lot about that during lockdown, how Grindr actually was some people's only outreach to the gay community that was stuck in houses with their family, where their family didn't know. So I agree. I think it is scary for those people. And we've heard about instances, of people being outed that way. I think that is terrifying, and it is everyone's right to come out and live their life in their own way and without being outed. Yeah, that is really scary.
We have to look forward. We have to look forward and say, okay, if Apple is doing this in the UK now, where will it be in 3 years? Could it be the case that anyone with an Apple ID has had to provide their passport, and then would a homophobic government where it is illegal to be gay, could they subpoena Apple and say, we want the passports of everyone that's got Grindr downloaded in this country?
Well, I hope the British government wouldn't go that far to allow that. But yeah,
it's not the British government.
It's
governments in other countries. It's if it starts here, but then if it goes out to other countries where they're using iPhones where it is illegal, that is a real potential thing that could happen. Totally. If you want to give Apple your passport details, fine. I mean, Apple probably has mine in the sense of I've taken a picture of it on my camera roll.
Yeah.
But that was my choice. Demanding people's ID, I think it's just dangerous. And I think that we need to take a stand against stuff like this because it will only increase. We're literally being told this device you brought 3 years ago. If you don't give us your ID, you ain't using all the functions. Okay, well, let's play that forward a few years and
Yeah.
play that forward in countries where they don't have rights like us. So I will be taking a stand. I'm not going to go on record and be like, I'm moving away from all Apple products immediately. I am phasing Apple out, and I will keep an eye on if they reverse this policy. If they don't, I will completely phase Apple out of all of my products.
Yeah. Well, it's
no
like
question.
the time, remember the time where if you, they downloaded everyone, that U2 album onto everyone's
Yeah.
iPhone. And it actually had, people think, oh, it's free music, it's great. But there was a thing about it really there of going, no, I want to choose the music that I download onto my device. And that it was a very minor but similar situation where they face a really big backlash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got to be careful. The tech is such a big part of our lives now. We have to make sure that we don't lose our freedoms because of it. And I don't understand. There are people that aren't alarmed about things like this. Oh, well, whatever. I just scan my passport, whatever it is. Well, not your passport, obviously, your driver's license. But it's not, it might be a slight inconvenience for you today, but you've got to think of the wider thing that's happening here. And we've got to be vigilant with this because eventually it will affect you.
Yeah.
When,
yeah,
we have a far-right government that says you went to a protest about this, so we're going to have to, give you a curfew and nothing will work for you. You won't be able to use your bank cards after 8 p.m. or whatever. Like, that is realistic stuff that could happen.
Yeah.
On that positive note, let's move on to a different story. Right, so the next story, it is this fallout from BBC Radio 2. Obviously, Scott Mills has been let go. Let's just caveat this right now with we don't know what has gone on there. I mean, we have certain things about inappropriate relationships, allegations dating back to 1997. But I think it's definitely caused a lot of debate, a lot of people talking about this one. Where do you stand on it?
I wouldn't say it's awful to say I wasn't shocked when it came out because we are so used to these stories coming out now. And to be honest, so used to the BBC being under attack, if I'm honest, in many ways. But I just didn't think, oh, what is it related to? Because we didn't know straight away. It's very complicated for something to be 30 years ago, and it's already been through the police system and it's been dismissed. But then the fact it's come back. I find it really interesting this time, as I've said, and I feel we're getting maybe to the end of what was extreme cancel culture, which I'm quite pleased about because there was this thing where people were just so, a few years ago, just would jump on anything, any allegation. Everyone, oh my God, I can't believe it. They're terrible. Almost like they should be executed, or like people would go that far and say these things. And there's been a lot of stuff coming to his defense saying, you don't know what happened. And also a lot of people just saying he's a human being. And a lot of people talking about Caroline Flack and be like, look what happened with her. Because she was just suddenly attacked. You can go to the worst case scenario there. Like you said, I don't know the reality of what happened. I understand if it's something relating to a minor and something who was underage, that the BBC does have to take it seriously and look into that things because it is paid for by the public, the BBC. What's really interesting, and this is going back to the LGBT community, is what I've read is it possibly maybe relating to a 16-year-old who at the time would have been illegal, a minor. But if it was now, it would be legal because the age of consent changed. Because apparently LGBT people had to wait longer to have sexual relations in this country. Yeah. So that's a really interesting thing that I read.
No, I hadn't heard that. I mean, I think with this whole Scott Mills thing, for me, it's thrown up a lot of arguments around ethics and about cancel culture and about what qualifies you losing your job. Now, obviously, if he has done anything with the children, like, good, like, get rid of him, probably haven't gone far enough. But what I've heard is that, well, hold on, this is just an allegation and he hasn't been found guilty in a court of law, so why should someone lose their job? Because then what's to stop me saying you did something to me? That's an allegation.
Yeah.
And then, what? So I'm supposed to lose my job? Like, where does that end? But that has been happening. Like, people have made allegations around people, so it's very hard, to know where the line is for me. And I was putting it to someone the other day. I was like, well, hold on, like, Russell Brand hasn't been found guilty of anything. Andrew Tate hasn't been found guilty of anything. But you still, like, there are still people that wouldn't employ them because of the speculation that they've done something. So I have actually found as well, it's shown people's sort of biases towards, oh, but he's over here and gay and cuddly and left leaning and stuff. And I don't know. I just think that it's been very interesting where I kind of think, but I don't think you would clap if you would have a problem if it was someone you didn't like, that was losing their job.
Yeah,
So
true. I mean, yeah, that is inspiring. I think with Russell Brand, it's like kind of in the middle. Personally, for me, Andrew Tate, I think I'm actually one of those people just because of the things he says genuinely in everyday life. And Scott Mills isn't one of those people. But I know what you mean. It's that, and it's all allegations until it's proven. But then that goes.
But what are you supposed to do as an employee? Yeah, but what are you supposed to do as an employee? Because at the end of the day, you can say, look, there's these allegations. You weigh up for yourselves whether you think they're credible or not. It's not something they can prove in a court of law. But what are we supposed to do? And I guess especially the BBC, where they've obviously said, well, no one's been arrested yet, and let it slide, and then it's years later something comes down. You maybe understand the BBC being a bit more proactive of like, look, we just don't want. But then, we have seen false allegations against people. So this can destroy people's lives. And I don't know in the modern world, you know what it is? I don't think there's probably a one solution fits all thing to this kind of thing. There are going to be some people that will have allegations against them that are totally false and their lives destroyed against it. There's going to be some people that have allegations against them that are absolutely true, and need to be taken seriously, and they shouldn't be in a position of earning that much money or being famous. But it feels dodgy to get rid of them because you can't prove anything. I think it's an individual case by case basis thing, which isn't, doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, that is the justice system, though, isn't it? Like we look at the bias over the years of the justice system and how over the years people always got away with stuff, and how people in power still to this day, as we know, in the UK governments and American governments and South American governments get away with stuff because they're in power. And then that is a case by case basis, isn't it?
I will go and look into the legality around what you said you heard about the age of consent change. I mean, a 21-year-old has no business messing around with a 16-year-old anyway, so it doesn't really matter what's legal or not. But I do wonder for people that, where the age of consent changed, when the age of consent changes, do they sort of wipe historically any issues that have happened there? Or is it still no, but it was illegal at the time, so we can still prosecute you for it because at that time it was legal, even though if you did it today, it wouldn't be illegal. Like, I don't actually understand how the law changes there.
Yeah, I think final point is that I'm 42. I was born in the early 80s.
Oh my God,
and
actually.
Yeah, and I grew up in the 90s. So I started going out into the gay scene when I was about 15, 16, because a lot of people did, because there was nowhere else to go. You didn't tell people at school. You couldn't just go out especially being in the Midlands, go out to a club and meet another gay guy like yourself. That's why shows like Heartstopper took me so long to understand, because it was so not my reality. And actually, there was a lot of safety in those places for me. And so I do believe that that's how a lot of those things happened, because there was nothing else. And yeah, and I'm not obviously okaying it in any way or form, because a minor is a minor, but I also always blame society for a lot of these things, because when people have nowhere else to go, this is sometimes where these relationships that are not appropriate start and happen. And I think that is a positive about having more places for LGBT people to be themselves. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens with this. I don't really know what else there is to happen. I mean, he's been fired. He's put out a statement. Will he get employed again? It doesn't seem like anything legal is going to happen, because they've tried that. So
this is what happens with any sort of journalist broadcaster now. And this is why I think it's funny. They get fired from the BBC, and they always end up on Good Morning Britain or one of they do, because they will take them on, because they come and they're usually a bit twisted and angry at what's happened. So they go on these other platforms that go unleash your anger. And then you go, well, they're still working. They're just going to be a bit more like forward, and yeah, that's what I've seen happen with most broadcasters that have been cancelled, unless it's more extreme.
True. I mean, but then look at Philip Schofield, because again, he would say, what was his line? Unwise but not illegal. Again, can't take him to court over anything, but still the wrong choices.
Yes.
Obviously, he was let go and hasn't resurfaced anything. I think they put him on a desert island for a little bit for Channel 5, and that was about it. But yeah, I mean, they just shouldn't be doing these things if that is what they've been doing, obviously, because again, if it's the same thing I guess BBCs have, is the same thing that we're kind of having to do with this conversation. It's like, we can't say for a fact what went on because it hasn't been proved in a court of law. And I don't know. I don't know whether we as a society will get better at handling this in the future, of dealing with people that have had allegations and not being able to know if they're true or not. Is it right to destroy someone's life and take their career? And I guess we've always had a society where you're innocent until proven guilty. But at the same time, and as a dad of three, I take no chances.
Yeah. Did you ever watch, this is a complete segue, did you ever watch Call Me By Your Name, the movie?
No.
It's one of Timothée Chalamet's first movies, and what's really interesting about that movie is it's very forward, and it's about an American family that goes to France for the summer, and Timothée Chalamet explores relationships with both men and women in it. And his dad is an archaeologist, as my dad is an archaeologist, and is very open-minded and understands stuff. And I don't know if he's going to be about 16 in it, and he starts this relationship with this older American scholar. But it's very like nicely done, and the parents in it are very like, explore your life. And I just find it interesting when it is a massive conversation. Is everyone is at a different point in their life when they're 16, right? And every point is different life when they're 18 and 21. It's
100%. It's just tricky because there's power whilst you're legal at that age. There's still power imbalances.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I think maybe something that we haven't got into enough, and I might get into on a future episode, is probably, I think the society understands the power imbalance between a 32-year-old man and a 16-year-old girl. But when it's two men, I do think, we haven't explored how those things come about and what people need to be worried about, and why sometimes people might feel that there's not a power imbalance when of course there is.
Exactly, yeah. And 21 and 16 is completely different to 32 and 60. That's a whole other conversation. It's a huge thing, and it will never ever fully be answered, because who knows? I don't know.
I think I think we need better laws, in the sense of maybe the age of consent is 16, but there's a caveat on it as like, but that's for people between the ages of 16 and 18, and then
That's
maybe
true.
18 you can go to whatever. Like maybe it needs to be like that, so you can't have a 22-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Yes.
And obviously we've seen it the other way. Obviously we've seen two 15-year-olds that have been having sex together, and then one of them turns 16 first, and then the dad calls the police, and it's like, mate, I don't know about that one. So I think maybe we need to almost tier it, 16 to 18, fine, 18 to, and then I mean, I guess when you're 18, do what you want. If you want to date a 50-year-old man at 18, whatever.
Yeah. Well, we've got this topic. We need to move on from this topic now.
Right.
Yeah.
Next story. NASA is going back to the moon. Don't know if you saw it, caught a couple of clips of it. Artemis 2 blasted off to the moon. Won't be landing on the moon this time. They will, however, be going further into space than any human beings have gone before, as they sort of slingshot around the moon and come back. They did do it on April Fools. Not that I'm saying it's fake, but I did think that was quite interesting.
But was it delayed though? They nearly didn't launch, didn't it?
It almost didn't launch yet. It's one of the checks went wrong or some system failed. I think their
Yeah.
toilet failed too, which doesn't sound good. But anyway, they made it. They're in space now. They're on their way to the moon. How do you feel about it? Are you excited that we're back amongst the stars? And I mean, we haven't been to the moon since like 1960. No, it would have been 1970 something
Yeah,
that
God, I
we
never thought, God, that's
got back.
that. Yeah, I was thinking it's a long time. I mean, I've just gone to watch Project Hail Mary in the cinema, so that was interesting going to watch a space film. And what I
I
will
wanted
say,
to watch that. Was it
yeah,
good?
I love, yeah, it's good. It's a tiny bit too long, but it's good. I love space. Like I grew up like a lot of people loving space and having stars on my ceiling and that. I think exploring the universe and the galaxies and everything is fascinating. And actually, when Brian Cox did that thing about the planets, I was just hooked. But David Attenborough said something a few years ago that really resonated with me. And he just said, I'm just not really interested in space. He was like, look at this planet that we've got. It's absolutely amazing. And we don't explore it enough. We don't appreciate it enough. And I was like, it's so true. All this obsession with exploring other places to maybe find somewhere to live. If we just looked after this planet better, we'd be fine for a lot longer. And so, yes, I still think it's fascinating, and I will always be interested what they learn and how much further we can go. Because it's just the unknown, isn't it? I think as humans, on the whole, not everyone, we're fascinated by the unknown, but I also think we are at a different point where we're like, I think we need to put this planet first.
I agree. I mean, I think we could do two things at once. Obviously, we need to be taking care of this planet. We know that this planet is not going to last forever, so we do need to find other homes. I do also think, I think it's something wild, like 97% of all species that have ever lived on this planet are extinct. So if you think that we're in like this 3% of species still going, we're the most intelligent species to our knowledge to have ever been on this planet. I do think we owe it to life to say, look, if we could find somewhere else to live, then that's double the chances of survival, that we can carry the torch of life on. I do think there is something there of like, I almost think it's a bit of a responsibility. We have to find other planets to live. It's not saying, we all need to go, just little colonies on different moons and planets, places might be nice. So I always kind of think about it from that sort of survival of life point of view, because if an asteroid hit tomorrow, no one would ever know we were here. So I don't know. I think about it. It's like increasing your stock, I guess. And I do also think there is something in the human psyche about exploring. And obviously, you think back to the old days where people were going on ships and exploring and discovering new lands. This is the next frontier, right? Like, we've explored this planet. The next frontier is to go out and explore the moons and planets and galaxies and see what we find, and hopefully be a bit more ethical than when we were exploring new lands
Yeah.
hundreds of years ago and what we did there.
I just don't know if, no, it's not me. This is not a negative comment. I just don't know as a race if we're going to get there before it's too late, though, because when you watch these films and actually what it takes to go that far and wormholes and traveling at the speed of light, which is what we kind of need to go that far, to find a similar planet to Earth. We're not meant to live on the moon and we're not meant to live on Mars. Like, we survive because we have trees and we have all this greenery and oxygen. So if we went to live on, I wouldn't want to live on Mars, on the moon, and in a little tent and not be able to go outside and breathe proper air and see different colors. Do you know what I mean? I think we'd obviously we'd adapt, and we'd probably, our arms would grow shorter, our legs would probably be tiny. Our skin would all go grey because there'd be, you know what I mean? Like, it is interesting, all that. Like, how are we going to get there? Because I just don't believe.
Like it because it's, whilst people are sat there scrolling on their phones moaning that there's too much stuff to watch on Netflix, I do think we have 8 billion brains on the planet. We need these complex problems to solve. How do we get to Mars and have a source of gravity so our legs don't get smaller and all this kind of stuff? And what I always find is fascinating is when we do these big projects, like apparently the Apollo missions back in the day, that's where Velcro was invented, because that's what they needed. So they invented Velcro. So you've got to think there is always a benefit to, we've gone to Mars, but we needed to find a source of gravity, like an artificial one. We've done this, and now we've got anti-gravity technology. So I do think there is always a benefit to the everyday person. And I also think that, two things can be true at once. Whilst it might be expensive and pollutive to go to Mars or the moon, hopefully some of the problems they solve in doing that, they might then be able to bring back on Earth. Like, if we need a forest on Mars and we've got to build it inside a dome or whatever, maybe the technology that we do that with is like, oh, this is how we can reforest Earth or
Yes,
whatever.
true.
Like, I'm really overly optimistic about it, and I probably watch too much Star Trek, but I feel good about it.
That's it's a really good point. I think, and yeah, it's true. But that comes down to education, and it comes to the government's duty of exciting people that go to school about science and things, and not in the way it's taught. And I still think there needs to be a big overhaul in education, because why isn't there a lesson in space? Like, I'd love to go to school each week and do a lesson about space, personally, not just make it science. Like, if we want to do that, then shouldn't that be part of the curriculum? Each lesson, we're going to do a lesson about space. Think how many more minds we'd create and things. And there's that really famous female black astronomer who would love to be an astronaut. And I always remember watching a documentary about her. And she says, the reason I do what I do is because my dad made me think. He was a very intelligent man. And whenever we watched something, if someone did something bad, they watched on TV, she'd be like, he'd pause it and go, why do you think he did that? What was his reasoning? And this is just, I know this is like going off sidetrack, but this is how you get people to think and how we create brains, not just doing this. And this is what, including myself, like I'm part of that sitting in bed and scrolling in the morning. It's a duty of the parents, and it's a duty of the government and the education system and all of us to engage younger people and people our age, never too late, to think this way and be like, who says I can't be part of the next, moon space exploration and create something? I think that's where it all comes from. And then when I watch those documentaries about space, I go, oh, I used to be so interested in that. And then I just got into life and forgot about it.
I couldn't agree more, especially about the education system. And here, and more optimism from me. I think this is where AI will help, where it won't be that you're just a passive person watching a space documentary, that actually AI will empower you to be like, well, if you're interested, they're looking for volunteers to do this. And actually you could get involved in it this way. And this company cannot handle all this research, but they're looking for people to go in and help them with research or whatever. Like, maybe there is more ways that we'll be able to democratize access to these kind of things, and actually you'll be able to get involved, and it'll be a normal thing that someone has a normal job and a family, but on the side, they're using their AI tech and working for actually a side space agency and looking into gravity because they need more help with the research. Who knows?
Yeah, I do think it's fascinating, but it's interesting the amount of money it costs to do all this. And I know you talk about having to find life. There's just so much going on in the world. So I do feel like it just doesn't, even though it is exciting, for a lot of people, it's a bit irrelevant and it doesn't seem as exciting, unfortunately.
I would say I think that humanity should come together on this one, and I think it would be good for all the nations. And so rather than individual countries or companies having to do it, it's like, no, the world governments come together and they've decided what the plan is, and they activate it and they pool their resources, so you don't have to spend as much money or have secrets from the Chinese or whatever. It's like, look, getting off the planet, I think we can all agree on, let's at least be capable of doing it.
I agree, not this race they used to have between the Soviets and the Americans to get into space first, which was what was going on. Totally agree.
Right, let's move on to the next story. Right, got to ask you about this one. Growing backlash against AI-generated influencers and content. So obviously, as we know, there's been a rise in influencers and contents that are completely AI, and people are basically turning off from it. Where do you stand on this?
I was thinking about this earlier, thinking I watch a lot of animation and I watch a lot of little things on social media that I enjoy. And I'm like, where is the line? Do you know what I mean by this? Where is the line of what's the difference sometimes between that? Obviously, animation on the whole, hopefully, is created by someone. But obviously, a lot of the animation and little memes that are coming up now are created by AI as well. I sometimes find some influencers and people on social media a bit robotic anyway. So I was thinking, what's the actual difference with the content? And also, but then the other thing is like, what's the difference? If I'm honest, like I sometimes feel social media anyway, not all of it isn't 100% reality anyway.
Well, I think it's quite interesting because one thing you could argue is like, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And there's some AI like crime channels on YouTube where they retell crimes. It's just an animation. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
perfect for what I'm doing because I'm not sitting there watching it. I'm kind of doing other things, listening and glancing at the screen every now and again. So that's perfect for what I do. Where I think it's interesting now, and this is maybe a little bit further away from AI, but the algorithms have undoubtedly changed. And someone was saying to me the other day, it's not so much social media anymore, it's algorithm media. And I know
Ah,
people that have got massive followings on Instagram that are like, oh my God, I used to get like 5,000 likes a post. Now I'm lucky to get 54 likes. And I was like, oh my God, that's so interesting because actually I haven't seen anything from you in ages. It's like, it's not because I've not been posting, it's because when you actually scroll now, it's what the algorithm thinks you will
yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
it's stand-up comedy, or it's someone walking around half naked being like this versus this, and I think it has narrowed what people are doing because now people are like, well, I've got to compete with this, so here I am with my shirt off, being like, 5 things you need to
Mm,
do each morning. And it's like, oh, yeah, I don't know, it is changing the nature. And I don't know, I did prefer the old days where, you followed certain influencers because you actually like what they had to say and stuff,
and
not
that's what
because
you
they were
got.
having
Yeah.
to do
Oh,
challenges to keep you looking for more than 2 seconds.
I totally agree. Well, this also links in with one of the next topics that we're going to cover to do with retail, because what's happened is retail has seen such an opportunity on social media to make their money while you're scrolling. And
Mm,
so while they try and mix in the content where you think you're just watching a post, but you're actually watching an advertisement, even though some of them are so bad. You know those little ones where they're going, "Oh my God, tell me about this product. I can't believe it changed my life." And they make you think you're watching a podcast, but it's
yeah.
actually just a 10-second clip that's recorded. And we've all done it. Like I ordered a lymphatic drainage brush when I was drunk the other week, and something else like, so it gets you. They can get
Yeah.
you. And I think, unfortunately, I don't see that changing. Um, is there a setting still on like Instagram, for example, you can select there where you only see your followers, or can you not do that? I swear there was, and you could you can just put a toggle on. I think a lot of people don't know that.
Well, maybe I'll have to have a look in settings because, yeah. But then, their algorithms are correct because it's keeping me on. I'm like, oh, what's this guy's stand up about?
So
Oh,
clever, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it is what it is. But then it's becoming more niche. It feels like people aren't being able to share their stories as much because they're not getting as much traction, particularly LGBT people. Like it's just unless it's like a half naked gay guy being a bit
I
cheeky,
know.
like you're not going to cut through to the algorithms.
Yeah, and it is very true. I mean, I've been following a lot what's going on in Cuba because my brother-in-law's from there, and family, and I very much care what's happening there. And when I watched 2 or 3 videos, my whole feed was just videos about Cuba, nothing else.
Really?
Yeah, so it picks it up so quickly.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah,
But
with
on the AI side, look, I don't have too much of a problem with it. I'm a big fan of AI. I think you've just got to be careful, that it doesn't all take us down one very narrow road. But at the same time, if it does, that's where you zig when others zag, right? And maybe someone becoming the anti of that then catches on traction. So I think it's all just culture, and culture just moves at
yeah.
different lengths now. And I do think that this is the future, right? Like whether you like it or not, I think I will say to my computer in 5 years' time, um, I've got 5 minutes before I'm leaving. I need to know what actually happened with the Iranian Revolution in the 1970s. Could you create me a video that gives me an overview in 5 minutes? And it'll
Mhm.
boom, create it. And I think that it's stuff like that that will be the future. I think people will sit down in the future and be able to say, create me season 11 of Friends. I want a cameo from George Michael and Alan Carr.
Well,
And I
well,
want Phoebe
yeah.
to get pregnant this season, and it'll just create the season,
I
like
I will
whether that's right or
counteract
not.
that though, because there's a massive backlash with actors, and including myself, about that. There was a video this morning of Harry Potter. Don't know if you've seen it, with the original kids, and they're all dressed in like tracksuits with gangster like stuff on. And actually, someone's
Mm,
put a video and gone, "What you need to realize about this is they're actors. That's their faces. They haven't signed and allowed this,
mm,
and these are kids. And
yeah.
if you can create that with kids." what else can you create with kids? And I was like, wow, that's like people. We need people like that are forward thinking. So I hope that it never gets that way with actors, because it shouldn't be allowed. But we all watch those videos where things have been redone and the actors, but it needs to be nipped in the bud. That you shouldn't be allowed to, use someone's face or body unless they've consented and they're making money from it and they think it's okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this will be a big debate that's going to come up more and more as the technology improves.
Yeah, that's what the actor strike was about in America. That was the main thing. Yeah.
Let's move on to the next story. Right, final story. Nestlé have reported a large-scale theft of KitKat products ahead of Easter. With the story gaining traction online, partly because of its unusual and I guess almost comical nature, like who would steal Kit Kats? And I do think in a world filled with like complex, heavy news, like just being like someone stole all the Kit Kats, like it's just the kind of, even though it's a crime and it's wrong, and we want our Kit Kats, it feels light. It feels like I'd rather hear about that, to be honest.
We need this, and also what you don't realize is that Nestle, the Kit Kat sales have probably gone up because you put anything in someone's head and people go, oh, I want a Kit Kat. Think of the amount of people that have probably gone out and bought Kit Kats from reading this story.
This is great PR, isn't it, for them? Because you've created a shortage of something. You've reminded people of something. I mean, maybe it was an inside job.
I mean, personally, it's funny. I would put Kit Kats in like the mid sought after chocolate bar range, personally. Like, I'm always going to be like Galaxy, Mars for me, like at top. Kit Kats is like the middle, unless it's a Kit Kat chunky. But that's like, for me personally, and this is just like satire, and it's particularly quite a British. I'm sure people in the UK find this funnier than any other country in the world, in the respect that we love this kind of thing, don't we? And the amount of like memes and gifs and things. The first time I saw it is my friend who's obsessed with Kit Kats did a big thing and said it wasn't me, honest. Because they love Kit Kats.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, don't have a lot of Kit Kats, although they did do one. It was like a Lotus one. It had like white chocolate and it was like the biscuity. It was so nice. And I was obsessed with those for a little while. Not that I eat that much chocolate, to be fair, but I quite liked that. But I do think if you're going to put all of that effort, like I don't actually know much about the specifics of it. Like, did they plan this? Was it like, they actually went after the Kit Kats, or was it a crime of opportunity? Because I just think if you're going to put all that effort in, like, what are you going to do with all those Kit Kats? Like, you clearly aren't going to be able to eat them all. Are you really going to go through all the trouble of trying to take them to the shops yourselves and sell pallets of Kit Kats? Probably not. Like,
well, it happened between Poland and Italy. They don't know where exactly, do they? But I know it's true. This is what I was thinking. Is like, is it someone just going, "Oh, we could resell all of those," or is it? It can't have been planned. Surely they can't be like, "This is the Kit Kat route. We've been planning this for 2 years."
Sure. See, I can't wait for the AI-generated documentary on this that I'll be able to watch later, because, just to me, it makes no sense. Like, what a stupid crime. This isn't diamonds that you can, like, resell and break down, or gold bars, or blubbing government bonds. Like, you now have all this chocolate on your hands. What are you going to do? What's the sell-by date on a Kit Kat? How long have you even got to move it
that's what I was
before it goes off?
I reckon it's about a year. Kit Kats, I'd say.
So they've got a year to move all of these Kit Kats.
If you had a whole lorry and it had all the Nestle chocolate in it, right, that's a better opportunity. But because it's just Kit Kats, it does seem just bizarre. Unless it's a bakery.
Okay, so let me throw this to you. Let's say you have a partner, your partner comes home and tells you it was me, and there's like, I've got all of these Kit Kats like hidden away now. What would you advise them to do? And turning themselves in as an option. Like, what would you try and do to get rid of the Kit Kats?
I actually don't know. I think I'd freeze. Be like, I actually don't know what to tell you, because I've never been in a situation like this in my life. So I have no prior life experience to deal with this.
I feel like you're not going to be able to get rid of them by yourself. I feel like your only play would be to write to Nestle and say, I've got your Kit Kats. I've worked out, there's £10 million worth of Kit Kats here. Give me 3 million. I'll give you the location. Like,
I don't. I think companies
that's the only way you
Nestle,
make money off
I
this.
think
You're not going to go and
like,
sell them all yourself.
No, I think companies like Nestle are going to be like, keep them and we'll just take you to court and you'll go to prison. Imagine being in prison and being like, why are you here? It'd be like, I stole 20,000 KitKats. I
No street cred on the yard.
You'd just get called KitKat, wouldn't you, for like the year that you were in?
Yeah, very odd. Let's see if the KitKats turn up. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me for this episode.
Worries,
if people want to follow you, find out more about the podcast you do, where do you want to send people?
Just go to my main social, which is at Matthew Russell Jones, which links to everything else that I do in life, I would say. Perfect. Is the best place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Subscribe for more content.